Hey everybody, this is your Digital Super Saiyan 3 back here with a new video, and welcome to my March pay-per-view review. For the month of March, I chose to do WCW's Uncensored 1997. Took place on March 16th, 1997 at the North Charleston Coliseum in North Charleston, South Carolina. On commentary, you got the team of Tony Schiavone, Bobby the Brain Heenan, and the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Kind of like all the 1996 and 1997 pay-per-views, you have Dusty, Tony Schiavone, and Bobby Heenan. Alright, so let's get into this. Opening contest we got is for the United States Championship. As the champion, Eddie Guerrero defends against Dean Malenko, and this is a no disqualifications match. This is a no DQ match to start off Uncensored 1997. This was a lot more wrestling oriented than, we got to see Plunder. We didn't get to see much Plunder in this no DQ match because, Guerrero and Malenko, we do see them work on each other. We saw Malenko work Eddie's shoulder, and we saw Eddie work Malenko's knee, because Malenko's knee was injured. Yeah, Malenko was getting his knee worked over. Eddie was getting his shoulder worked over, especially the spot when Malenko dropped Eddie on the guardrail, shoulder first, and we saw Malenko started to work on Eddie's knee. And during the match, we saw Rick Steiner taken out in the backstage, as Rick Steiner was supposed to be part of the Triangle main event to decide the power in WCW. So, because Rick Steiner was a part of the WCW team, that means he's going to be out of the main event, leaving Scott Steiner, the Giant, and Lex Luger all by themselves, a man down for the WCW team. Anyway, and standing over Rick Steiner's prone body, we see Scott Hall and Kevin Nash and Six, aka Sean Waltman. They're talking about get a medic and everything, pretending like they care. Of course they don't care, because, they're the ones who assaulted Rick Steiner. Anyway, Sean Waltman comes out during the ending of the match, and he and Eddie Guerrero are fighting over the U.S. title belt. And the belt goes flying right near Dean Malenko. Malenko picks up the belt and hits Guerrero with it. And 1, 2, 3, Dean Malenko is the new United States champion. So we got a great opening match, and the match of the night so far, since this was the first match on the show, and basically the best match of the show. What a great match it was. I mean, Malenko and Guerrero, I don't think Guerrero and Malenko have ever had a bad match against each other. Next, we go into the locker room as Mean Gene Okerlund is about to interview Team Piper, consisting of Rowdy Roddy Piper, Chris Benoit, Steve Mongo McMichael, and, of course, Jeff Jarrett. Double J, Jeff Jarrett. And yes, originally Jeff Jarrett and Steve Mongo McMichael were originally supposed to face the Public Enemy on this show, but were pulled out of their match to be a part of the main event with Team Piper. Anywho, Piper's talking about, yes, I've had to overcome so many odds during my career. I've had to fight so many people. If I have to fight WCW and the NWO just so I can get my shot at Hogan inside of a steel cage, so be it. And yes, he's talking about Flair and Anderson not being there, since Flair and Anderson are gone. They're not on this show, but we see them advertised for Spring Stampede, or we see them in the Spring Stampede commercial that airs later on during the broadcast of this pay-per-view. Now we get into our next match. It's a high-flying, cruiserweight-style, lucha libre-style matchup as the Ultimo Dragon defeats Psychosis. Yes, the Ultimo Dragon with his heel manager, Sonny Ono. Yes, with Sonny Ono defeating Psychosis. And this was a great match, actually. This was a really, really good match, actually. It was not as good as the previous match that I happened to watch with the Guerrero and Malenko match, but it was still a very, very solid matchup. Really good working from both Guerrero and... Or not Guerrero, I mean, from both Ultimo Dragon and Psychosis. Ultimo ends up getting the victory. 1, 2, 3 after hitting the Tiger Suplex. And Ultimo Dragon is your victor. Now we're getting into our next match. But before that, we get an interview on the stage as Mean Gene Okerlund comes out to interview Diamond Dallas Page. Now, Diamond Dallas Page has been talking... Now, this has been starting the whole... Now, this is the beginning of the feud between him and Randy Savage. As Page is, like, talking about how Randy Savage doesn't want to give him the time of day and everything. You know, how he plans to come for Randy Savage. But then Randy Savage comes out and says, "Hey, Page, look at this centerfold." And he's got this swimsuit mag. He and Elizabeth are out there. They're near the broadcast table where Tony, Dusty, and Bobby the Brain Heenan are all at. And Randy Savage is like flipping through the centerfold magazine, and then here comes a picture of Kimberly, Diamond Dallas Page's beloved wife, Kimberly. And all over the page with Kimberly, all over the Kimberly centerfold, is smothered in NWO graffiti and everything. And then out comes the real Kimberly, wearing this green dress, and she has got NWO spray paint all over her. Page tries to go get some of Savage, but Savage decks him and cheap shots him and beats down Page. And then, of course, after Savage just beats down Page and Page is attended to, we get into our next match, which is a martial arts match. And it's the first stinker on this show, as you got Glacier defeating Mortis with James Vandenberg. Vandenberg. So, yes, it's a martial arts match, and it sucked. Yeah, this is our first stinker on this show, and yeah, it's not the only stinker we're gonna have on this show, because we will have more stinkers on this show. This show is actually not that bad, actually. It's one of the better uncensored pay-per-views we've gotten so far. I mean, the previous two shows with 95 and 96 were not great uncensors, but then 1997 and 1998 came, and boom, we got some great uncensored pay-per-views. And 97 in particular would probably be my second favorite. And then, I would watch 98. I watched both of these shows that same year in 2018, so I did go on a binge watch through WCW from 2017 to 2018, mostly starting with 1996 and going all the way to 1999 and 2000. Yeah, I did binge watch most of those era of WCW pay-per-views first before I went back to rewatch older WCW shows beforehand. Now, next up, we got Tony Schiavone, Tony Schiavone deciding to show us the infamous car accident that the NWO caused on the Steiners when the NWO drove the Steiner brothers off of the road. How the Outsiders and Six, were in this car. They drove the Steiner brothers off the road after the Steiner brothers had flipped them off, and the NWO were antagonizing them. The NWO ran them off the road. And now we have an NWO promo as they are talking about how Rod the Bod is here and how Rod the Bod plans to make an impact during the Triangle main event that we will get to soon. Now, speaking of our first NWO member on this show, before we get to the Triangle main event, we got Buff Bagwell of the NWO defeating his former American Males teammate in Scotty Riggs in a strap match. Yes, that's right, a strap match. And this match sucked. This is another sucky match on this show, because of course we were going to have some stinkers on this show. And it sucked. Yeah, this match completely sucked ass. You touch 4 turnbuckle pads to win, and Buff Bagwell manages to do that. He manages to beat Scotty Riggs in this really lackluster strap match. Gotta say, this is not really one of my favorite strap matches. If I had to pick my all-time favorite strap match, maybe it's probably got to be the one from Fully Loaded 1999 with The Rock and Triple H. That was refreshing. Now, we're getting into a really interesting match, as it is a Texas Tornado style matchup, as you got Harlem Heat with Sister Sherry defeating the Public Enemy, Rocco Rock and Johnny Grunge, in a Texas Tornado matchup. No disqualifications, no countouts, all 4 men in the ring at the same time, weapons everywhere. It's a complete weapons fest. This was a really fun match to watch, and it lives up to the Uncensored name really well. I mean, hell, Dusty Rhodes was losing his shit during this match. Like, Dusty Rhodes is chuckling about a toilet seat being used. Like, he's laughing about, this is a toilet seat being used. Yeah, Dusty was literally losing his shit on commentary. He was laughing his big, fat ass off. Dusty was laughing his ass off. Just, that a guy getting hit, that guy's getting hit with a toilet seat would make Dusty Rhodes chuckle. And yes, and one thing the commentators don't even focus on is that Johnny Grunge did in fact get busted open. The match ends when Steve Mongo McMichael and Jeff Jarrett come out, and yes, they were originally supposed to wrestle the Public Enemy before they were pulled from that match to be part of the main event as a part of Team Piper. And you see Mongo nail Rocco Rock with the halberd. Or, I think Jeff Jarrett used the halberd. I think it was Mongo that nailed Rocco Rock with the halberd. And Rocco Rock gets pinned, 1, 2, 3, and Harlem Heat ends up getting the victory. This was the #1 contenders match for the tag team titles to see who would go on to wrestle the tag team champions. Now we're getting into our promo with Team WCW, as Mean Gene Okerlund is interviewing the remaining 3 members of Team WCW. The Giant, Lex Luger, and Scott Steiner. They're talking about how they're going to kick the NWO and Team Piper's butts. How they're going to rack, chokeslam, and suplex every one of them. Or And they also talk about, even though Rick may be gone, his spirit is still with us. You know, he's going to be here in spirit, even if he may have been taken out. And yes, I'm kind of surprised nobody actually wanted to join Team WCW to fill Rick Steiner's spot. Nobody in the WCW locker room wanted to get involved in this triangle matchup against Team NWO and Team Piper to fill Rick Steiner's spot on the team. Now we're getting into our next match, and this is for the WCW's World's TV title match. And you got Prince Iaukea defeating Rey Mysterio Jr. This is a return match from Super Brawl. I mean, William Regal or Lord Steven Regal was the reason why Prince Iaukea retained his television championship against Rey Mysterio, and now this is a rematch that Iaukea has granted to Rey Mysterio. Now, honestly, one plus side to a few of this, now the in-ring action in this match wasn't bad per se, just wasn't my cup of tea, kind of. And this was like the only other title match on this show. We only had 2 title matches. We had the U.S. title, which was the first match, and then we had the TV title, which was this match. Iaukea, I think, was seen as WCW's attempt to compete with the WWF as WCW. This was WCW's poor man's Rocky Maivia. I think he was supposed to be the Rocky Maivia of WCW. And yes, while The Rock, aka Rocky Maivia, while Rocky Maivia became The Rock and became part of the Nation of Domination, and yes, was the Intercontinental Champ and was the reigning Intercontinental Champion, the same cannot be said with what WCW tried to do with Prince Iaukea earlier on by giving him the television championship. And then later, after Prince Iaukea lost it, he sort of just faded into obscurity. And then later became the Artist, formerly known as Prince Iaukea. And yes, he did win the Cruiserweight Championship in 2000. Anyway, the match goes to a time limit draw, and Ray is like asking Prince Iaukea, please, you gotta give me more time, man. After the time limit had expired, and Iaukea said, okay, you get more time. He grants Ray his wish, and 5 more minutes is all they need. Ray tries to hit Iaukea with his Huracan Rana, but it gets reversed by Iaukea, who turns it into a pin. Iaukea is the champion yet again. He's retained his title. He's beaten Rey Mysterio. And yes, another plus to this match was the mask Rey Mysterio was wearing. He was wearing this red Spider-Man looking mask, and because I love Spider-Man, Ray wearing that Spider-Man-esque mask actually kind of made me smile, because Spider-Man is probably one of my favorite Marvel superheroes of all time. Basically, Spider-Man would be number 1 and then followed by Wolverine. And now, what other match was the, oh wait. Now we're getting into it. We're getting ready to go into the Triangle main event to decide the full power of WCW. You have Team NWO. If Team NWO wins this Triangle elimination main event, then they get to vie for any title at any WCW sanctioned show. If Team WCW win, then the NWO must vacate and give back all the titles they possess, and would be banned from WCW for the next 3 years. Basically a 3-year ban for the NWO. And then, of course, if Team Piper won, then Roddy Piper would get his wish and face off against Hollywood Hulk Hogan. Oh yes, and this was done in a total of 4 rounds, by the way. This was a match that had a round that was done in rounds. Now, yes, and there's a time limit per round. Round number 1, you have, representing Team WCW, you have the Giant. Team NWO, Scott Hall. And for Team Piper, the Crippler, Chris Benoit. So you have Benoit, Hall, and the Giant representing their respective teams in the first round. And it's a solid first round, nothing too fancy, but the Giant ends up getting eliminated first when he ends up going over the top rope after doing this body splash. His entire body goes over the entirety of the top rope, and he's eliminated, just leaving Benoit and Hall in the ring. Round number 2, the entrance. For Team NWO, you have Randy Savage. For Team WCW, of the remaining 2 members, you got Scott Steiner. And then for Team Piper, you have Steve Mongo McMichael. You have Mongo being the next entrant for Team Piper. And yes, it is like it is. Mongo did get eliminated first. Yeah, Mongo did get eliminated. And now Team Piper is down a man. Oh, yes. So Team Piper is down their first man. And Benoit is all by himself. Then we get into the third round. Round number 3. For Team WCW, Lex Luger. For Team NWO, Kevin Nash. And for Team Piper, you got Slapnuts. You got Double J himself, Jeff Jarrett. I know technically this was before he started doing the Slapnuts gimmick. He didn't do the Slapnuts gimmick till 2000, but yeah, I just needed to reference it here and there. So, yeah. So, okay. Steiner is eliminated. We're seeing Scott Steiner get eliminated. We then see Jeff Jarrett get eliminated. So, yes, Lex Luger is the only member of Team WCW left. And, of course, Chris Benoit is the only member of Team Piper left. Until we get to the fourth and final round, and then we have coming out for Team NWO, Hulk Hogan, the world champion. The Hollywood Hulk Hogan comes out with Dennis Rodman, as well as the fact that you had Roddy Piper come out as the last man for Team Piper, because of course Roddy Piper would come out as the last man for Team Piper. So, Piper and Hogan are fighting on the entranceway, and of course we see Rodman get involved, and now all the members of Team NWO are in the match, and only Piper and Benoit representing Team Piper, and Lex Luger representing Team WCW as the last man for Team WCW. We see our first elimination. So we then see Piper get eliminated, thanks in part to Dennis Rodman, as he pulled over the top rope, and Piper got eliminated, and Piper tries to get his hands on Dennis Rodman, and all the security is like holding Piper back and taking Piper to the back after what Dennis Rodman did. So now Benoit is the last man for Team Piper, and the last man for Team WCW is Lex Luger. Chris Benoit gets eliminated, and now you have Lex Luger all alone against Team WCW, or you have Lex Luger all by himself taking on the entirety of Team NWO, I meant to say. So you have Luger against Piper, you had Luger against Savage, Nash, Hall, and Hogan. And of course, you also can't forget about Dennis Rodman outside the ring. So, you're seeing Luger put on a superhero effort here as he's trying to be the sole defender of WCW left. He takes out Nash, he takes out Hall, he takes down Savage, all with the racks. And now, right as he's going to rack Hogan, right as he's got Hogan in the middle of the rack, Savage comes back into the ring and nails him with the spray paint, leading to Hulk Hogan delivering the leg drop and the 1, 2, 3. And now Team NWO wins the triangle match, and they're beating down Lex Luger, as Lex Luger is the last man for WCW. And then they spray paint the words NWO all over Luger's body as he's prone in the middle of the ring. And right as the NWO are about to leave, Sting comes down from the rafters, and he's pointing his baseball bat, and he's wanting to get some of the NWO. And the NWO, happily obliged, they try to get some of Sting. And Sting takes out Savage. He takes out Hall. He takes out Nash. And then Hogan's daring him, put the bat down. And then Sting drops his bat. And right as Hogan comes into the ring, Hogan gets overpowered, and Sting drops his ass too with a Scorpion Death Drop. And that was Uncensored 1997. And our show ends there. Final thoughts? It's actually a really good pay-per-view, and probably one of the better 1997 pay-per-views I've watched. Trust me, I like a lot of the 1997 pay-per-views. Some of the good stuff from the WWF, and some of the good stuff from WCW. And this is one of the best for WCW during 1997. Anyway, don't worry, this isn't going to be the only wrestling video I plan to do, because I'm also in the middle of working on a top 10 list of my favorite WrestleMania pay-per-views of all time. Basically talking about 10 of my all-time favorite WrestleManias. And until then, I'll see you guys later. This is your Digital Super Saiyan 3, signing off.